Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best cameras of 2025. From budget-friendly workhorses to high-end personal picks, we have it all. Alright, starting off with our mid-range pick. Now, mid-range is I think where most people that want to take photography or videography seriously should start out. And so with that, it's really a matter of balancing your budget and the performance you get for that. And I think there's no better camera for the year 2025 than Nikon Z5 Mark II. Now, Nikon's had a reputation with their mirrorless lineup that wasn't quite so stellar up until recent years. Recently, Nikon's done a lot of work to increase their autofocus performance and pack a whole lot of value and not a whole lot of money. So the Z5 II can handle pretty much any professional project you throw at it. With 4K raw recording, you can't ask for more quality for the money. Moving categories to something that in recent years has become even more popular than ever before, and that is our travel camera pick for 2025. I think with me coming from more of a professional background, I'm gonna have a slightly different take than someone who travels purely and that's all they do. But for me, I think the top pick for travel is going to be the Fujifilm XM5. With its compact body similar size to the RX100 Mark VI, but at a lower price point with interchangeable lenses, you really can't go wrong. I think if you're just trying to record cinematic footage, have a great coloring system built in, and you're trying to save a buck, there's not really anything else on the market that quite matches it. Okay, so getting into our first runner-up, this category has got a whole lot of amazing options, and one I want to highlight is the Canon PowerShot V1. I think it's an amazing value for the money. The reason it didn't make the list for me is the fixed lens rather than interchangeable, and the smaller sensor size. I think it's a great camera, but I think the Fujifilm gives people more room to grow. Now we're gonna get on to my budget pick for 2025. And with the budget pick, I think there's a couple of options of how you consider budget. I think for me, anywhere between $500 to $1,000 would be a budget pick. But if I'm just trying to get started into it, I don't have a whole lot of money, I want my full kit in that price range. And I think the best camera for the money, still to this day, is the Panasonic Lumix GH5. I personally owned a GH5 for most of my professional career. It has been, to this day, still the longest owned camera I've ever had. And with the 12 to 60 millimeter Leica lens, that kit could shoot anything I ever wanted with a 24 to 120 millimeter equivalent and the amazing aftermarket accessories that are available for the GH platform. You can still shoot 10-bit 4K 60 and you have open gate. It has most of the features that a modern camera has. The only downside I say versus modern cameras today is the lack of autofocus. And that's not to say that the GH5 doesn't have autofocus. It's just to say that it's not worth using. If you're looking for a camera to mostly film yourself, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the GH5. And that's where my second budget pick runner-up comes in. And that would be the iPhone. Now, I think anything iPhone 13 and newer is pretty dang good for the money. I would stick to a Pro model if you can swing it. And I think because you can get the whole kit for under $1,000, if you look used, just like we were looking with the GH5, and with how cheap the accessories are for filming on iPhones, I think it's a great pick. I think it does have some limitations, hence why it's a runner-up. Now moving on to number 4, we have my personal pick. Now, this is gonna be subjective, and I encourage you to comment if you have a difference in opinion here. But for me, I think my personal favorite camera of 2025, or best pick, would be the Canon R5 Mark II. Now, I've only got to play around with the R5 II a little bit at a camera store, but I also shoot everything on a Canon R5. If you told me that I could keep my same camera, but add a stack sensor, get rid of the overheating, get rid of record limits, add a hot shoe that it allows for direct connection mics similar to Sony's hot shoe, and get slightly better battery life, I would tell you you're joking. But really, it is just a better version of my R5. Now, that's not to say that it's the best camera on the market, and hence why we still have one camera left on the list. I think the RF system, being as locked down as it is a detriment to someone who isn't already a Canon shooter, right? Canon has amazing glass, but it comes at a price, and it comes also at a cost to your back. Most of these RF lenses are big and heavy. Now, optically, I think they're some of the best lenses available for mirrorless. But that said, there's trade-offs with that. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, our top camera of 2025 is the Panasonic S1 Mark II. Now, I'm gonna level with you. Panasonic might come to a surprise to some people, right? Especially because I haven't mentioned any Sony cameras. And I just want to take a moment from just going on about camera specs to just talk about value for money. I make this list coming from the lens of someone who either is barely into the scene or doesn't really have enough camera gear to have any brand loyalty, right? If you're looking at getting into photography or videography in the year 2025, then these are my picks. Now, I understand there's a lot of people who start on Sony and have shot on Sony for years, and they have all the lenses, they have old bodies, and they like to be able to color match. And if you're that person, you already know which Sony body's for you. Now, it's my opinion that Sony doesn't have anything super compelling right now. Unless you're looking used, most of their stuff is pretty outdated for the price. And considering going back to that Nikon Z5 Mark II, the Nikon mount can adapt Sony lenses. So even if you're on like something like a Sony A6400 or some older APS-C body, I think there's an upgrade path for you that doesn't necessarily need to lead you to an FX3 or an FX2. And I can have a whole video on why I think the FX2 is not worth a single dollar of your money. But I digress. This is my list. It's my opinions. Feel free to start a conversation with me in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. Tell me why I'm wrong. That said, back to the S1 Mark II. It is, I think, the best middle ground camera. It's got high enough megapixels for any real photographer, but it's with its stack sensor, it doesn't have any downsides like most photography-only cameras. Additionally, it has an awesome feature, which I'm sure has been beat to death by every YouTuber out there, but open gate recording. Similar to that GH5 we mentioned earlier, we can record the whole sensor width, but what steps up with the S1 Mark II is the frame rate. We can go now from the 30 FPS we were limited to before to 60 FPS open gate recording. That means you can get slow motion footage that you can deliver to any aspect ratio your client wants. If you're looking for a camera that can do it all and save you the time of having to record things multiple times, if you're looking for a do-it-all camera, the S1 Mark II makes a compelling argument. So with that said, that was my list of the top 5 cameras for 2025. Feel free to comment down below, ask any questions. I'd love to hear what you guys think is your top pick for the